Hello and welcome to LB Presents Unite on Purpose. We are a global movement towards driving purpose-led businesses towards unity. And I decided to set up this channel all around uniting on purpose so that I could interview some of the incredible businesses that have been through my Bob Earth purpose-led platform that connects businesses all around the world to trade. And they have come through different programs and literally transitioned their businesses over to 21st century thinking all around how to build a brand to impact change in the world. It was always my belief that we could shift the world into a new era through the eyes of brands and create what is on my wall, the face of modern business and actually the face of the modern world. Now, I've been interviewing businesses most nights from America, from Canada, from the UK, all around what does it mean for them to unite on purpose. And today is no different. I have my lovely guest who I actually taught a number of years ago, and he is back in one of my schools, Richard Crawford Small, and he is known in the industry for building a successful aesthetic business by inspiring the people behind them. Now, it's interesting because I talk about the face of modern business. And in this space, what we really are now talking about is what do you do with your face and how do you create something around the face and what sits behind the face. And working in the aesthetics industry, he knows that better than everyone. So it will be interesting to interview him when he comes onto this show and we can chat through what it is that he does. So hello, Richard. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hello, Lindsay. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Now, Richard, we met a number of years ago, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
I actually taught you on a program quite a few years ago, and then we re-met again recently. And you came onto my program recently called L&D, and you've sat on that program, and we've been working together on building out your business. And it's been interesting because I find your industry absolutely fascinating, I have to say. You know, the world of aesthetics, the world, you know, was probably one of the most interesting worlds for the world, where everybody now looks at their face and what they're doing and actually the external side. And I talk about building the face of modern business and actually looking at the face. So talk to me about, you've been in the industry for a number of years, you're an author, you've had a very successful book out. How on earth did you get into it in the first place?
I think, like a lot of things, I fell into it by accident. I mean, my background, a sort of potted history, was I was in the Navy for 8 years, so I had a military background. And my first kind of job out of school was in the Royal Navy, and then I've always wanted to kind of, I guess, fix things. That was always the thing in my head about fixing things. And I had a knee injury when I was playing rugby, so I meant I couldn't really continue with my naval career. So I was sort of faced with a bit of a dilemma at 24 of what do I do? Always enjoyed the creative arts. So I started then down what's now known as creative technologies. At the time, you know, it was 1998. It was still kind of the emergence of the internet, etc. So I basically jumped from the Navy. I went to uni and I did one of the first kind of multidisciplinary degrees, which is now known as creative technologies. And that I've finished that and left, and coincided with the .com crash. So when I came out of uni, there were lots of really well qualified people who were doing what I did. So and also I was kind of, I'd had enough of working with tech for a while. So I did what most people do when you come out and you haven't got a clue what to do, is I went into sales.
Naturally.
Yeah, naturally. Why not? I'll just go and do some selling. It's easy enough. And I kind of really actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with people. But what I found was, rather than products and services, I enjoyed helping people to commercialize things and understand. I just get a kind of a bit of a natural affinity to looking at how they can position different products and brands And I carried on with that. I did some sales for graphic design agencies and multimedia, as it was, and helped a few agencies set up a multimedia division. And then it was just a little quirk of fate. Is I needed to I wanted a slightly different job. I effectively paid a little bit more money, to be honest about it. And a friend of mine was working for a pharmaceutical company, and this pharma company was dealing with a product called hyaluronic acid. And I didn't have a clue what it was. But what I did notice, they were making a product that was essentially going into the same industry as Botox. And that, for me at the time, 2004, it was the emergence of essentially Botox into the UK. So it had been in the US for years. And all of a sudden it was kind of like quite exciting. And I just looked at it, and I looked at the combination, and it had everything that really lit me up. Was technology was there. There was a cracking brand to be involved in, and an industry that was pretty much nascent. So I jumped at it, and I went and got involved in basically selling hyaluronic acid in that sector. And my career just kind of developed in that sector. I've sold pretty much everything in that industry. I've worked with every different size business in that. And then a few years ago, I decided to sort of step out, set up my own consultancy to essentially help grow and develop aesthetic businesses.
Gosh, where do I start with your beautiful background? Okay, I'm going to start with did you say creative tech?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to first understand, and for the viewers watching this, what is creative tech?
What is creative tech? So I guess back then it was things like sound engineering, animation, HTML. It was kind of the technologies that enabled you to effectively create multimedia. So because back then everything was still very, very new. So HTML was still the main kind of language that everybody was using. Flash animation, remember all of that? Yeah, it was still those sort of days. And bandwidth, no one cared about that. But that's what we were doing. So, and I wasn't as talented a designer as some other people, but what I got was how it all fitted together. So I was able to kind of essentially pull different groups together and have the sound engineering, the animation, graphic design, to put it into essentially commercialize different things.
So you moved from creative tech and you moved into an aesthetic world, which actually I remember in 2004, because I had an agency, a business before Bob, businesses, but one particular one called Surgery, which actually built brands. And we did, I remember actually must have been 2003. We had Botox being given at our press day to all the journalists that were coming in. And it was very, very, very early, as you can imagine. And it really, it created quite a stir actually through all the journalists. And I remember very early on around the whole aesthetic side and coming onto the market, even though obviously, like you said, in America, it had been there for quite some time before. What I'd like to know from you is you've been in the industry from the early days. How has it progressed? How has it changed over these years? Because you must have seen some huge development taking place working with the products and the brands and all the different areas. Could you just explain to the viewers what type of things you've seen and also what do you think is coming next?
Okay, yeah, I mean, actually, what we've seen is almost like four very, very distinct eras. This might sound familiar to you. The eras. Yeah. Thanks for helping pull this one out of my head. So it's distinct eras. So around kind of 1996, I guess, to kind of 2006, 2007, it was definitely the Botox era. Botox was the number one. It had the PR, it had the budget, it had everybody was talking about it. And it essentially what it did is it helped a lot of doctors, nurses, etc., escape from NHS and create the essential, the cosmetic doctor, the Botox doctor, the Botox.
My brother is a dentist and he trained in Botox.
Yeah, and it was huge, and it was those days where you could effectively just kind of even put a sandwich board outside your business that said Botox and actually generate some money. Things obviously changed quite quickly as it became more saturated. Then after that, we had another phase, which was looking at essentially energy devices. So lasers, the laser hair removal, resurfacing, more invasive treatments, things that kind of extended it. So you can do the wrinkles. Now we can do, skin peels, resurfacing, that kind of stuff. And that was enough for a while. Things carried on, but then it got more sophisticated. And then all of us, then the last 10 years, it's been much about skin. The last 5 years, been a lot about skin treatments. So skin first. So you've probably seen, there's a much wider, bigger awareness in the aesthetic market of, skin treatments and all the products and services that have come with that. There's been a huge growth in the number of products available on the market. And that was going on pretty much fine until March this year, when, lockdown, bang. And all of a sudden what we had is an industry that generates all of its revenue through walk-ins. So unless you're physically treating someone, you're not able to generate any revenue. And very, very quickly, we had to pivot. And, I as a business had to pivot. Our clients had to change the way they were thinking about things to enable it to be not just so reliant on short-term income. Because obviously, if you've got a lockdown, you can't afford to lose 75 to 100% of your revenue for an unknown period of time. So what's changed is, a development of longer term thinking, of more online, product sales, the knowledge economy being used a little bit more effectively to underpin all of that, but then also supporting at-home treatments. So that connection between the clinic and the home is getting stronger and stronger. And that, I think, is the next kind of big development we'll see, because people have now become accustomed to working in slightly different ways. Like, this, for example, Zoom face, here we are, Zoom face.
Is it that side or that side?
Yeah. I can cover half of it with hair. So it's easy for me. So this is the development, and that's where things are going. And it's just thrown the whole sector in a completely different direction. And actually, I think for the better if we work on it properly. We don't have to put the world together in the way it was. And I think there's definitely more opportunity in this than there was before.
Oh gosh, you brought it beautifully into the today, actually, and actually looking at where we are with the pandemic and the recession, because one of the things that I've personally been going out and talking about is the industries, and actually how do we kickstart the global economy. And you are in one of the industries that I would say has been hit the most. The beauty industry, the travel industry are one of the leading sectors that have been impacted. And interestingly, I went on the BBC and talked about the pink economy, which a women's sector is what they're talking about. It used to be the blue collar one that was in the last recession. Now this is the pink recession. And I talked about on the BBC around the fact that a lot of the industry sectors, beauty being one of the big ones, was hit, and a lot of women work in that area. What do you think about women in the workplace? Because they've also had to pivot very quickly to be able to maneuver themselves. And I thought it was interesting what you said about at home, because there's a lot of women now that are, some of them struggling to get back into the workplace because there's so much uncertainty with what's going on. They've also got kids, and they're having to juggle both. And, predominantly still there's, the thing between who's bringing in the income and so forth. What do you think about that? Because interestingly, what I thought was interesting about, you said about in the home. And so I'd be interested to see if there's something that could be coming out of that for women that might be in the home that they may be able to do differently. What would be your take on that?
I think so. A couple of things. So the aesthetics market actually was quite resilient to the economic headwinds 2008. It didn't dent too badly. So sort of thinking, well, even though now is very, very different, we're all kind of sort of expecting a similar kind of thing. It will drop a little bit, but essentially just because of the way it is, it continues to kind of grow. And essentially how it will play out with at-home use, I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot of network marketing and M&M kind of offers around skincare. And sort of
two big brands in the market, network marketing, that are multi-millionaire businesses.
Huge. Absolutely, and I've seen those really kind of kick on over the last couple of months. Also, the change in sort of essentially drop ships. So because people can't come in for treatments, they're essentially being online consultations, but then the products are going to be having to be shipped by manufacturers directly to the end user, for example. I mean, all of that has massively increased. So I think there's much more opportunity, because you now if you've got your business model right, you don't have to see as many people physically. If you've got the education and the knowledge, the experience and the insight to be able to effectively articulate, your skin, your philosophy, or for example, on skincare, and have people buy into that, engage with it, and then essentially pay you, and you can get the product shipped to them. Why you don't need and demonstrate how to use these products through video. Why do you need to actually physically see anybody? So and the information and the education's out there. So for me, it's kind of like, well, that's what I'm looking at people doing is, yes, the physically treating people has to make up a part of your business, because that's where you get the bigger income from. But the constant ticking over, that can be done digitally, and in my opinion, actually should be done digitally. So now we've got a broader opportunity, and it's those are people who are more comfortable being on camera, more comfortable demonstrating, bit more QVC essentially, have got an opportunity to really develop and really grow their businesses in the next 12 months.
Oh, then that sounds to me like a bit of the personal brand kickoff for a lot of people, and those that lead with their personal brand with purpose might win the day.
I think so.
Which leads me into asking you my $1 million question.
Here we go.
Richard, you've been on my programs. You know me pretty well now. And the question that I always like to ask people. And I'm obviously, I'm on all my programs, I've asked all my people, what is it that you're known for, Richard? If you can kind of lead with your purpose and unite on purpose, what is it that you're going to do to be able to make that happen, leading your industry forward?
So leading my industry forward, I'm known for helping people achieve their goals, and regardless of whatever they are. And I've thought about lots of different ways of answering that question, but it keeps coming back down to the same point, is when people generally meet me, regardless of what industry or sector they're in, there's something they want to achieve. And what I do is I draw that out of them, because 9 times out of 10, they'll come to you with some sort of financial answer, like I want to earn this much, I want to earn that much. And that's not the case. There's always a couple of layers below that, i.e. what they want to achieve. And then I help them achieve it. And it doesn't always play out the way that they expected it to. So I guess, that's essentially what what I'm known for.
And if I took you from a business layer now for a moment, I'm now going to take you up to an industry layer. And Richard Crawford Small, you have been in the industry for many years, and you are going to go out and lead this industry into a new era. What would you do for the whole of the industry? What would you be known for with the whole of the industry, and not just for the individual client?
I'd take this industry, I'm going to say this, but it's out of the space it's in and elevate it. And the space it's in is when people say about cosmetic surgery or aesthetic treatments, generally their vision goes towards Leslie Ash, Michael Jackson, the human Ken doll. It goes negative. It's seen as vain, vacuous, all of those kind of negativity aspects to it, because essentially the media has sensationalized that aspect of it. And I see a very, very different side of it. I see the changes that it makes in people's lives, the transformation aspects of it. I see the real sense of achievement that my clients get out of performing an amazing result for someone that's taken them from one emotional state to another. And that's what's very rarely seen or talked about. It's always, about cowboy practitioners and this, that, and the other. And that narrative doesn't do anyone any favors. It doesn't help the people who are in the industry, and it doesn't actually communicate effectively to people who could benefit from it, about, you know, what's inside. It's almost like there's a big door there, and behind it is this mystery, but everyone's just talking about it on the outside, and none of it's making much sense to me. So, you know, what I want to do is essentially kick that door down, open it up, and allow the truth of what actually happens to be communicated.
Oh, I love that. You could be all about the truth of the industry.
Yeah, I like. There was a BBC show a little while ago called "The Truth of, you know, Cosmetic Surgery," and it was a truth, but again, it didn't do anything differently. It didn't really explain much about the, you know, the real transformations that people have. You know, people who have suffered, you know, horrible accidents and disfigurements, and the impact that has when they are, you know, essentially able then to go out into the public, you know, feeling in a slightly different way. The people who have had, you know, horrible relationships and now rebuilding themselves. You know, that's not what's communicated effectively, and that's what needs to change.
Oh, I love that answer. Okay, so I'm going to take you up one last layer, Richard. And I'm going to say to you, right, you've sorted out the business layer. Yeah. And now you've waved your wand on the industry layer. And now I'm going to take you all the way up to the societal layer, world layer, but the societal layer. What would you like to do for society? Is there something that's societal, impactful that you would like to do around, you know, your industry, or around something that would actually impact society?
Wow, I hadn't really given that one much thought, but what jumped straight into my head is I just like help people feel more comfortable with who they are and the way that they look. And essentially, where we are now is it's a digital world. You know, this isn't the first time I've been interviewed like this. It's not the last time. Lots of people are going to be sitting in front of cameras and, you know, communicating. And I think from a societal layer, it's how do you help people feel more comfortable doing that? And if that means that they have to have certain treatments, or there's certain things that have bothered them that are making them feel uncomfortable about doing it, let's, you know, deal with it. You know, there's the opportunities and the treatments to be able to have, you know, and let it become more social acceptable to have those kind of things. I think, you know, that's something that we could really give back.
Do you know, it's interesting. So I'm going to talk now about the future. And because we've gone up to societal level and we've done industry layer and so forth. And when I look at, I suppose, my generation, our generation, and I look at the people and I go, there's many people that are having cosmetics surgery or aesthetic, something. They're having something done, and very few people talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite under the radar. It's very hush hush. It's kind of something that you whisper to your best friend and say, and she goes, do you have the number? And you go, yeah, I've got the number. And it's slipped over the counter to your mate, and your mate makes the phone call and she'll go and have some Botox or something. And we don't really talk about it. And I really like what you said around there's a real honesty, transparency. What I like about what you said was there was this myth of, you know, you'd go and you'd have all this work done. And actually the reality is it's just not that. No. You know, my belief was always around a small amount of something that's incredibly natural, something that you just age kind of like you. You know, you kind of age beautifully, and you will age if you look like you, and you know, less is more, so to speak. But you don't have to do nothing unless you choose to do nothing. And that's absolutely fine as well. What I would ask you is, and you've just touched on this, is the era of Zoom, the era of digital has made us, you know, I've noticed my makeup bill has gone up tenfold. Oh my gosh, my Charlotte Tilbury is running out at speed of knots. And, you know, I also am in the era of, I've got the, you know, the lady that comes, the network marketing lady with the creams, and she's sending me it in droves over. And what do you think about that? Because if we are going to be living online more, I noticed I'm made up now nearly every day because I'm on webinars or so forth, and I don't want to sit online without my makeup on. What do you think about all that? Do you think we will eventually take the face off and just sit on without it, or do you think we'll move on in that space? What do you think will happen?
Well, interestingly, one of the goals that a lot of my clients try to achieve is the no makeup selfie, is to get their clients comfortable with actually sitting on Zoom without wearing any makeup, by helping the skin essentially to heal, repair, and look good enough so you wouldn't need to do that. That's kind of what their role in it all is. I'm sure they're all watching now going, you don't need makeup, Lindsay. You don't have
that makeup on, even though I'm on the nearer age of 50, not 40 anymore, but still.
Yeah, I'll be getting hammered with the messages like, put her in touch with me, I can sort it out for her. But I think on the point is, everybody's obviously, it's looking at themselves much more, and I think everybody has a right to kind of have the digital representation of whichever one they see. I heard a few years ago there's the sort of theory about there are many different versions of you out there. It depends on who sees what. There are videos of me 2-3 years ago, and I was considerably bigger than I am now. I was quite overweight, and now it's almost doing these sort of Zoom calls helps me to sort of focus on that, because you think, I'm looking a bit chubby around the chop, so I'll do something about it. And everybody has their own right to do that. But I do see that there's going to be an increase, and there will and is an increase in the amount of facial treatments and at-home treatments that will be coming out, because that's the way that is the way that manufacturers are going to need to service the market. It's the way that the market will need to be served. The consumer always wins. It's the way the consumer is going to want to be served. Not everybody wants to go into a clinic, but they still want to have clear, fresh skin, but they don't want to take the risk of going outdoors. So
I'd quite like to have a spa party, but online, where somebody does me, all my friends, we're all wrapped up in our hair towels and face masks. I'd love to do something like that, and we all have a spa party and campaign it around. It's okay to have your face creams and your face masks on at home.
That's a great idea.
I think we should do something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, that's the other thing. Things are connected, and it's sort of one of the things I realized when after lockdown was everyone was talking about how it will have reduced social interaction. My social interaction went up.
Okay, mine has.
I'm speak to far more people now in the course of a day than I did before.
I did.
And so and that tells you something. We're comfortable with doing like this, and so there it is. It's kind of people's makeup bills will increase, but other bills will drop. Travel,
totally.
Travel costs have plummeted.
I don't have any travel costs.
No.
So I'm going to ask you the future, and you've been on our L&D program, and what has it been like for you going through the program? And actually, because I know on the program we kind of prod and kind of ask you different questions, whether it's about your purpose, whether it's about the growth of your business, whether it's about what you want to shift your industry in. And you've been in a room with very different businesses from different industries. What has that been like as a kind of headspace for you building out your business?
It's been incredible, and I've really enjoyed it, because it's easy to sit in silos and sit in your own little bubble. And I feel quite privileged in a sense, as even though you're kind of like in an online classroom, but there's guy in the US who sells windscreen wiper blades, and there's another guy who does imaging systems, and you've got marketers, but when you understand, I guess that businesses across the board have the same challenges regardless of what they're selling or what promoting. It kind of helped level me a little bit, because it's like you're at a certain point in your business life cycle. There's lots of other people at the same sort of process, and you're all I knew that was going to sorry. And you're all
you can go get it. and I can sing. You can go. I can sing a song for the viewers.
I have a very enthusiastic dog. I'll keep going through it. It'll calm down in a sec. So yeah, it's and one of the things it did let me do is look at the business again, but look at it with the future in my mind. So going through the sort of understanding what the shock phase was, and then looking at the rebuild, that really helped settle me down, because knowing that there was a pattern to what's going to come gives you confidence. The other thing it then does is it sends you off on a tangent, because then you can start to research it, and the stuff that Darren was talking about L-shaped recession, etc. Well, then you're transmitting that to your clients and telling them that it's okay. This has got a rhythm to it. You've just got to endure this part. This is what we can be doing, and then actually rebuild your business in a better way.
Okay, so you're in my last minute. You are about to unite on purpose, right?
Okay.
Yep. We are here. We're about to unite on purpose together. We're about to do a campaign. And before you do that, Richard, I met with Boris earlier.
Right.
And Boris gave me, he said, "What are you doing today, Lindsay?" And I said, "I'm going to interview Richard Crawford Small." And he said, "Oh, gosh, I love Richard." He said, "You give Richard the keys to the whole of the UK only for one day. And he can have them for the keys, because I'm just going to have a break for the day." And he said to me, "Pass them in the Unite on Purpose bag." So hang on a minute. Here you go. They're in here.
Okay, cool. I've got that. Thank you. Yeah.
Right. So take the keys out. And he said, "Richard, you have the keys to the country for one day." And he said, "What would you like to do? You can do anything you want. What would you like to do with the country for one day?"
Can we have live rugby back, please?
Could you do it about your industry? And also, I'm a Leeds supporter for football, not rugby.
Okay, so the student can't have the rugby back. What I'd like us to do is let's be a little kinder about people, a bit kinder to each other, a little bit kinder about people who make choices. You might not agree with their choices, but support them anyway.
Ooh, that was beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard. You are an absolute joy. I absolutely love having you on the L&D program with us. And I truly believe that you can lead this industry into a new era, and you have a lot to give to people. So thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for the invitation. Really appreciate it.
And thank you, viewers, for joining me today for another LB Presents with one of my incredible people that are on Bob Earth, which is a purpose-led platform that connects businesses all around the world to trade with each other. And if you would like to meet some of these incredible businesses, then why not come and join us on Bob Earth? And you will meet all the businesses that I've been interviewing as they are residing on the earth as founding citizens. And remember, why don't you like this, share this on my YouTube channel, or subscribe to the YouTube channel and pay it forward and let people know that we're running LB Presents Unite on Purpose with incredible businesses. And who knows, why don't you come and join us? And shh, it's a quiet revolution. Build your brand, grow your business, impact an industry, and shift the world. See you tomorrow.